to Casa Romero Renewal Center, a part of Doors Open Milwaukee. My name is Sister Jean Ellman. I'm the coordinator of the Urban Plunge program here at Casa Romero. I'm going to be your tour guide today. Come on along and follow me. Well, here we are at Casa Romero. We're in the chapel of Casa Romero Renewal Center. Casa Romero was not always Casa Romero. It really began as Holy Trinity Convent for the School Sisters of Notre Dame. Casa Romero, or Holy Trinity Convent, was built of cream city brick in 1888. Cream city brick is very common in the Milwaukee area. It's kind of a yellowish or creamish color. And it was used because there's a lot of it in west of the lake and in the Menominee River Valley. The brick that you will see on Casa Romero is pretty black because there were a lot of factories here, and soot and smoke blackened the walls over the years. I'm going to point out a few of the architectural highlights of the building. First of all, it was designed by Paul Schnetsky and Eugene Liebert. It was a modified Richardsonian Romanesque building, and it was completed in 1888. The School Sisters of Notre Dame came here actually in 1847. They came to the United States at that time from Germany. And by 1852, they were already here in Milwaukee teaching the children of German immigrants. Eventually, the sisters had a small house that they moved into in the neighborhood. But by the later mid-1800s, 1860s, 1870s, many more children were coming to school. There were hundreds of children in the school, and many more sisters were here to teach. And the house was no longer adequate for the number of sisters. So the sisters moved into the basement of the school, and they lived there for 13 years. Eventually, Mother Caroline said, "It looks like this is not going to work very well for the rest of our lives." And she bought this tract of land right here for $2,000 and had the convent constructed by the architects which I mentioned earlier. In 1888, it was completed and the sisters moved in, and actually the sisters had been in this building from 1888 until 1996. Continuous use of the building by the School Sisters of Notre Dame. I'm going to point out a couple things to you that are rather unique. One of them is tin ceilings. In the building there are several tin ceilings. This was very common in Europe, and the ceilings were made of plaster with designs in them. In the United States, that was very expensive, and what happened at that time is there were about 45 tin companies, and they determined a way to make a tin ceiling with kind of a drop press, and the ceilings were put into the buildings, and then they were painted white in imitation of the plaster ceilings in Europe. You might also notice going through the building that we have a natural wood banister. It's one of the few things that was not painted over with multiple layers of paint through the years. In the basement, as we move downstairs, you'll notice that the cream city brick walls are also there in the kitchen and the dining area. These walls were discovered when the renovation was done for Casa Romero. Prior to that, nobody knew that those cream city brick walls were there. In the later 1800s, many convents were built with the kitchen and the dining room in the basement. I'm not sure why, but they were designed by a priest whose name was Father Abelin, and for some reason it became rather popular, and many convents, especially in the inner city, had the kitchen and dining room in the basement. From the kitchen and the dining room, we can also move out into the garden. We have a lovely garden, flowers, trees. It's enclosed. It's a calm, quiet, peaceful place. Mother Teresa, our foundress, who lived in Germany, wanted to have every convent for the sisters should have a garden. And so when we came here in the late 1800s, we had a garden, which was wonderful. Let me tell you a little bit about how Casa Romero came about. In 1996, the last sisters moved out of the convent, and the convent was empty for a few years. In 1998, Father David Shields, a Jesuit, moved here from the reservation in South Dakota, And he was looking around the neighborhood and he saw this building and he said, geez, this would be a wonderful place to have a renewal center, a retreat center for the Latina community. And he thought this place could be renovated for a mere $25,000 or $50,000. So he started talking to people, and everybody thought it was a good idea, but nobody had any money to support it. But eventually money started to come in slowly through donations, and he decided we're going to go ahead with this. And so he got just an army, a boatload of volunteers to come in and work on everything, because everything in the house for the most part had to be replaced. The plumbing, the roof, the heating, the windows, the walls, of course, had to be replastered. Everything had to be done. But over the course of a couple years, it was all done, and now it's a beautiful place. It's a welcoming place for the community, and not just the Latina community, but also for anybody who would like to come here for a little time of quiet and peace and challenge in your life. It's named after Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was the Archbishop of San Salvador in El Salvador. He was killed for his work for justice for the people of El Salvador. And so this place is named after him. We love him very much, and you'll see his picture in many places here in Casa Romero. He was a voice for those who had no voice. And that's really part of our mission too. We want people to discover their own voice here. We want them to go out and be a voice for those who have no voice. Throughout the house, you'll notice there are many cultural artifacts. We try to be open to all cultures, not just the Latina cultures, but all cultures. So you'll see things from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, from the United States. In the chapel, there is a lovely picture of Mary, which is in the Native American tradition. We also have a picture of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, in a Native American tradition. We have a picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is from Mexico, and it's done in clay. Very heavy. Don't try to carry it off because it's not going to work. We have things from Guatemala. We have stoles from Guatemala, things from Spain. We have a wall of witnesses, a number of people who motivate us to continue our work for social justice. We also have a wall with peace cranes. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the peace cranes, but the peace cranes, there's a legend in Japan that if a person folds 1,000 origami peace cranes, peace will come in the world. Well, there's a story, a true story, of a little girl in Japan who endured the bombing of Hiroshima. And although she survived the bombing, she developed leukemia not too much later. And when she was in the hospital, she decided to fold 1,000 cranes for peace. So she folded and folded and folded, but she died before the peace cranes were finished. So people over all the world are now folding peace cranes for peace. The peace cranes that you see on our walls are those that were folded by groups that came here for an urban plunge. And on the back of each peace crane on the inside, there is a prayer for peace. Casa Romero has many opportunities for renewal. Renewal for youth, for adults, for families. We have several camps for youth. We have an art camp in which students work on through various media of art. And you'll notice in the house a number of murals that were made by our high school students. High school students who are interested in social justice and interested in art come here for a weekend, and they work together in small groups of about 5 or 6. And they work with a muralist from Milwaukee who teaches them what do you actually do to make a mural, and they discuss together what is the theme that they want to portray in their mural and how are they going to express that. And then they work together on a mural to express that theme. They have to agree on what the theme is, how they're going to do it, what they're going to paint. So at the end of a weekend, there will be 4 or 5 different murals from high school students from various parts of the city. Most of the time, they take their murals with them and hang them in their high schools, but we do have a few here in Casa Romero that you can see. Another camp, another summer camp, is a music camp in which children of all ages from about 5 to 14, 15 learn to play various instruments. They play keyboard, guitar, mandolin. various percussion instruments, and they play from their heart. And they go out throughout the city, they play for different events, they play sometimes for masses or celebrations of some kind. These are students, some of whom have some disabilities, but not all of them, and no matter the ability or the disability, they're part of the group. It's called La Comunidad de Amigos, the community of friends. Another camp is soccer camp. This is for high school boys, and the high school boys come and they stay here for a week ordinarily, not during the pandemic, but otherwise they stay here for a week. They not only learn to play soccer, they learn what does it mean to be a man in today's world. And they discuss among themselves and with one of our leaders, Carlos Beltran, who works at Casa Romero, how does a man live out his life in a way that makes a difference in the world? And that's one of the most impactful parts of the camp. Soccer is fun, having fun together, eating together, those are fun things, but the discussions and what happens inside is much more important. We also have middle school retreats during the year, which are usually one day, usually 5th grade through 8th grade, some grade, and each grade has a different theme. We have moms retreats, which is a wonderful experience for moms. Many times moms are harried. They have a lot to do. So twice a year we have a group that come in for a moms group. There are usually 10 to 12 people in the moms group. They come in once a week for 2 hours on an evening. And they share in faith, they share the joys and the sorrows of motherhood. They talk about how to be a good mother, how to be a good mother when you have problems or challenges. They help each other. And at the end, of course, there's always a big celebration. They also can bring their children with them, which is a great thing because that means their children are taken care of here while the moms can sit down and relax for 2 hours without having to worry about anything. While their moms are busy, the children are learning to play for the Comunidad de Amigos. They're learning to play various instruments and they're learning various songs. So it's a win-win all around. Another program that we have is the Urban Plunge. This is the program that I run. I facilitate urban plunges for high school and college students, also for some adults, but mainly for high school and college. Those students usually stay with me for about a week. They stay here at Casa Romero. And they study the various problems and resources of the city of Milwaukee, and they meet a lot of people. It's a one-on-one experience of people. Our various themes are racism, immigration, trafficking and domestic violence, care for God's creation, and one other that I can't remember. Oh, the other one is poverty, hunger, and homelessness, which is a big one because we are certainly experiencing a great deal of that right now. So we go out to various places where people are homeless, we meet people who are homeless or were homeless, and we interact with them. We meet people who have experienced racism or who have had immigration concerns. We tutor people who are interested in taking the citizenship exam. So the main point of it is to come to know people on a one-to-one basis. And then at the end of the day, we come back and we debrief and say, now, how did that touch us? What did that really mean for us? And we end with prayer. I'd like to close by going out to our beautiful garden. It's a wonderful place. So thank you so much for joining us today at Casa Romero. Hope to see you soon. Hasta pronto. Bye.